Hey everybody, welcome to another Goody Reader comparison video. My name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Today we have the Apple iPad mini versus the Google Nexus 7. This is basically a battle between iOS and Android. We're going to show you ebooks, magazines, we're going to show you comics, we're going to show you audio, video, content distribution systems, and a whole lot more. Let's start with the specs. The Apple iPad mini has a 7.9-inch screen versus the 7-inch screen on the Nexus. You have 1024 by 768 resolution on the mini, or on the Nexus you have 1280 by 800. So a bit better resolution, but you have a smaller screen area. Dual core processor on the mini, whereas you have a NVIDIA Tegra 3 quad-core processor, 1.3 gigahertz on the Nexus 7. You have various memory models available to you on both of these devices. What do we have on the Nexus?
You have the 16 gigabyte version, 32 gigabyte version, which this one is, and then the 32 gigabyte with HSPA plus cellular.
Which basically means about 4G.
Not quite up to the LTE models you can get in addition to the Wi-Fi on the iPad mini.
Right, so Apple iPad mini allows you a tremendous amount of flexibility on what you want. You have 16, 32, 64, and then you can get each of those with the LTE depending on your coverage area. They both have front-facing 1.2 megapixel webcams, although the Apple iPad mini has a 5 megapixel rear-facing camera. Comparable battery life, you'll get about 10 hours, although the mini will give you a little bit more in standby.
Yeah, it depends on what you do. If you're just playing casual farm building games, I mean, you can virtually keep it on for 4 or 5 days on standby. You know, turning the Wi-Fi off, dimming the screen, all these things on both these devices really increase battery life.
Okay. What makes these similar and the same on a hardware level?
This is very thin, the Apple iPad mini. I'm just going to sandwich these guys, show you exactly how thin we're talking. Significantly thinner. But it also is more spread out, and it is a bigger screen. So, I mean, they have an advantage in that market. They're billing it as a 7-inch because it's a 7.9, but in reality, it's pretty much an 8-inch. So, it's in quite a different category. We'll continue looking at this. You have just the standard screen, bezel, thin bezels on the side, chunky on the bottom and the top, home button, front-facing camera. The back I found on the iPad is a little weird. You can see here there's a dent. I think it was just we rested something on this that was just heavy enough to kind of dent it in. It's not the most durable of plastics, and it gets dirty very easily, as you can see. I mean, we obviously wash our hands before these reviews, and it's just really dirty really quickly. Everything's kind of happening in this corner. Volume up, volume down, lock button that is a slider you can set to different things, camera, power button, headphone jack on the side here, 3.5mm headphone jack, and then the microphone up top. On the bottom, you have stereo speakers, which is weird because the iPad 3 and all the other previous iPads only had one speaker, so it's kind of strange to see a smaller device have more audio capabilities.
Yeah, I actually found that versus the iPad 3 or iPad 4, the mini actually gives you better sound quality.
It does. Now on the Nexus, a little bit better quality in terms of build quality. The plastics are a lot nicer. You get this nice perforated leather-esque look to it with embossed logos. Looks kind of just plain. I mean, you have...
Looks like your standard
It
fare
does. It almost looks like a
tablet.
giant phone, like a giant LG or Samsung. Yeah, you have a microphone on the top and a microphone on the side, so no matter which way you're holding it, you actually do get full microphone capabilities. On the side here, you have volume up, volume down, power button, 3.5mm headphone jack, micro USB, and 1 or 2 speakers. It's debatable. A lot of sites that sell this, even Google Play and Best Buy, they just mark it down as built-in speaker. It is debatable as to whether there's 2 speakers in there or not.
Okay, so you can see here, this is the main UI, and as you can see, Apple actually has a physical home button, where the Nexus, it's all software driven. You have a Jelly Bean 4.2.2, I believe, is the version number here as of shooting date, and we have the latest version of iOS here. So, as you can see here, pretty standard, you know, You could switch between, landscape and portrait mode. It kind of depends what you want to do. You can do the same thing on here, which is pretty rare. On Android tablets, often the home screen does not switch orientations, but it actually does here, which is a breath of fresh air.
Exactly.
One of the things that really separate these two is voice recognition and being able to do things via voice. Google with Jelly Bean actually has a cool feature called Google Now.
Press and hold the home, it's not really a button, but I mean it's a software driven button. Slide up to Google, and then you have all your cards here, they're called. So what they'll do is, because we're in Vancouver, it's showing the temperature in Fahrenheit for some reason. So we have Vancouver temperature and weather. We have the particular corner where we're situated, tells you bus schedules down to the minute, where the bus is going to pass the physical corner of this street. Places to eat, things like that. You can also go and press this. What is the weather right now?
It's 45 degrees and overcast in Vancouver.
It's always overcast. But yeah, so
True.
it does stuff like that, so that you can do web searches, just anything it wants to really type in there. It'll follow along as you speak. So very, very high quality voice recognition. And then as well as on the iPad, you can press and hold this. Kindle. I just said Kindle, which is the name of an application, and what it'll do is it'll just open up Kindle, and there's the full app. So both of them do have their own way of recognizing voices and interacting with the device in that way, and they just present it differently.
I think I like Google Now a little bit better.
It is pretty cool, especially with these cards. I mean, you can completely customize it and add different things and all that. So, I mean, you can swipe away cards if you want to delete them, and it's a really cool service.
All right, so let's look at the content distribution systems. I mean, iTunes and the App Store versus, Google Play. Walk us through what we have going on here in Google Play.
So this is the first screen of Google Play. You'll see here that you have everything's all squared. So you have apps, books, magazines, movies, games, and certain other promo stuff. 50% off subscriptions. You get a little bit of ads in there. Ads from Google, of course.
Yeah, it's Google's actually first birthday since the brand shift from Google Play to the Android
That's
market.
right.
So
Yeah.
during
Vice
this,
versa.
yeah, during this
Yeah.
next month, you're going to see all sorts of discounts on apps, games. I heard even there's a big deal on Final Fantasy games right now. Where
There you
instead of
go.
paying like $20, you can get it for like $5.
There you go. So you have gaming gifts. These are the games on the first. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's exactly it. 50% off Dimensions. As you see here, this is under featured. If you swipe to the right, you'll go to different sections. So top paid, top free, and so forth, top grossing.
Swiping pretty fast.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, with quad core and a decent Wi-Fi connection, I mean, you're not gonna have any
So let's
lagging.
just click on an app just to give people a sense on like how everything is viewed.
So you have a slideshow along with a video. This is the new 3D Wheel of Fortune game. You have description, ratings, reviews, and users also viewed kind of thing. So really, really intuitive, really well laid out. I think it's, I mean, what they've done with Google is just amazing.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's definitely grown. This is the standard screen here on the App Store. Looks a bit different.
I've always liked those featured slideshow, three-dimensional cascading kind of thing they have.
Me too. Yeah, totally. So everything's scrollable. You're not really jumping between a lot of menus than you are on Google Play.
Everything's just kind of on one screen for the most part.
Right, so let's just check out. So if you want to look at it, you sort of see a pop-up here. So you see the Huffington Post. Same thing, ratings and reviews, stuff like that. You also get things like the top charts. Then you could click on various categories and start filter your results depending on what you want, whether you want ebooks, magazines, newspapers, things like that. You can also look at all your purchases, which I find is a cool feature.
Mm-hmm.
And this way, if you can't really expand memory on either of these devices.
No, you're set to whatever you purchase.
Right, so everything's basically stored in the cloud. So You know, you could delete apps here, and then you could, you know, grab them from the cloud at a future date, which is these little cloud icons here. I like the store presentation and layout. I find it's a lot more intuitive on the Apple iPad mini than the Nexus 7.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's never been a contest. Apple has just got it down with their store presentation. Everything's laid out properly. They make tremendous use of the one screen when you first boot it up. I mean, look at this. It only shows 6 or 7 things, but then everything scrolls. Everything scrolls, you know? It's great. Whereas Google, it's kind of like, oh, here's the beginning, dive a little deeper, which is still fine, but I mean, it's just, it seems that Apple just, you know, dominates in that department.
Okay, so of course you can do a lot more than apps. It has Google Video, Google Music, Google Books, and Apple has its competitors service like the Newsstand, where, you know, everything that you purchase is in there, and Google Books does pretty well like the same thing, where you can see here different magazines and things. Different sort of layout. I would say that Apple puts more of like the graphical spin on things, whereas like
yeah.
Google, it's bare bones more or less, right?
It is, yeah.
So you don't have like a lot of like the frills and gimmicks and that sort of thing. As well as with if you want like TV shows, movies, and things like that, it's pretty well like in one section. Whereas like Google has different sections.
It's divided, yeah. This is Google Play videos, and then you can go to music and get music, and then books to get books, and Google Play to get games. So a little bit divided, whereas Apple is all kind of under one roof.
Right. Of course, anything that you buy on your Google account will be synced to like different Google accounts.
Yes.
So if you have this and a Google phone, what happens?
If you have a Google certified phone, like you know, just a regular smartphone, your games will be synced, your content, your movies, your books, all that kind of stuff. So make sure when you're getting multiple devices, be it tablets, phones, make sure you use the same Google account.
Right, and it's the same thing with the Apple ecosystem. If you have like another iPad, Apple TV, an iPhone, or whatever, you know, even iTunes on your computer, anything that you purchase will be synced automatically to your other devices. If I take a picture on here, it'll automatically be sent to same on the MacBook Air.
Exactly.
So it has kind of cool benefits. So this is the content distribution system and really what you could expect out of it. One of the big things is maps. Apple has really ditched Google for their mapping system and put in their own. So let's take a look at their mapping system here. So you can see this is Apple Maps here via the default sort of Google Maps. Apple Maps needs a little bit of work, you know. It pretty well, like, there's specific countries where it's not doing so well, like in Australia.
There's been quite a large discussion of Apple Maps in the past couple months, just with workarounds for geographical problems, like there'd be a mountain, so they draw a road that isn't there around it, so it definitely does need some work.
Yeah, I mean, Google Maps has just been around for so long,
right?
You know, that they've really worked out all the kinks, whereas like Apple, not so long, but I kind of like the kind of cool, funky, you know, if you look at the buildings here, they're actually almost kind of like 3D.
Yeah.
And do you get something like that out of Google Maps?
Not so much. You can get satellite mode, traffic mode, all that kind of thing. We'll go satellite. You can get, you know, some look at some sense of 3D, but you don't get that depth you do on Apple Maps.
Yeah,
so.
that's the one thing I kind of like about it,
Yeah.
is that you can actually scroll around and check out, like, what the back of the building and stuff looks like.
Right.
Or you could, like, scroll really, you know, close.
Right into someone's window almost.
Yeah. Hey, I recognize that person. But yeah, I mean, so these are basically like a very basic overview of like the mapping system. The next thing we want to do is look at the ebook experience.
So we have some Kindle books open here. We're both running Kindle. Both of these are at the whitest it can go on for the backlight. So you can see that the Apple iPad mini screen is just enormous compared to this when there's a white background involved. You can really tell where the borders are.
It's hard to come across on camera, but this background is actually way wider.
It's super white, yeah. So with each of these, I mean, they are both running Kindle, so you do get text changes. Everything changes live for the most part. So you can adjust text size. Page turns, I mean, there's not even a contest. They both run just fluidly. I mean, ever since we started dealing with higher spec tablets, there isn't too much of a delay. Back a couple years ago, we might have said, look at this page turn on this one. It's a
Single
second delay.
core,
Yeah,
800 megahertz.
exactly. Now that, you know, you got quad core, dual core, and it's from Apple, which is just usually Apple has no problem with lag and choppiness of any kind. Doesn't really need to be much of a competition. They both do notes and highlights and all that kind of stuff, and a little mini magnifying glass when you press and hold in case you can't see something or read something. You change colors of the highlights. You can do searches, themes. I mean, we've seen this all before, and it definitely is the full Kindle experience on both of these.
I would almost say that I do like the Apple iPad mini a little bit better than the traditional 7-inch tablet, and that's not a slight against the Nexus 7 directly. I do like how it's basically an inch bigger, so more text can be displayed with even the font the same size. So unfortunately, if you belong to a book club, you may have more text on this page, so the page numbers may not line up directly. But you could fit more text, which is good. And you really do see this a little bit more evidently when you are looking at comic books. So what we're going to do is fire up comic book app here. It's a different app, but we're pretty well looking at the same comic.
So we have issue 20 of Cobra, G.I. Joe.
And maybe we'll go to My Comics.
There you go. Issue 20, yeah. So, looking at them right now, obviously the Apple, we'll just go to a bright page, shows way more. It really does. I mean, it's a bigger screen, so there's no denying it.
Yeah, if you look at, say, this airport here, it's a little bit larger.
Right.
Let's look more towards, say this scene here. There's just a much larger frame.
It is, but you know what I almost see is that it's a little more crisp due to the resolution and the smaller screen on the Nexus.
Yeah, because you do have actually a higher resolution on a smaller screen.
Right. So you can see guided view, panel view here.
Yeah, see, this is the dedicated G.I. Joe app, but it actually is made by Comixology, so you do have this sort of the same guided view technology as you do have. So let's take a look at this, because it actually it has red. So do you notice, from a normal person's view, you might not say, oh, I don't see
You're not
any
going to
difference.
nitpick it if you're just a casual reader, but you can tell the reds look a touch faded here, a little more solid and a little more truer here. Look at the text here compared to this. This is a lot more crisp. This looks a little softer. You can nitpick it all day if you want. Honestly, just on a one-on-one base level, you're not really going to find too much difference, except the fact that this is a much bigger screen.
Yeah. The one advantage that the Mini has is that by default, these text boxes are a little bit more easily read, whereas here, because you're dealing with basically a 1 inch smaller,
They're more compressed.
you kind of have to zoom a little bit more, even in portrait mode. So I would probably say that the advantage for comic book reading might go to the iPad mini in terms of it's a larger size screen, but I would say that in counterpoint that you could load your own comics on here.
The flexibility of having it it's more open than the Apple. So
yeah, you could easily download CBR, CBZs, which is the mainstream comic formats online, and then just copy them via the USB cable. Super easy. With this, you can't really necessarily copy CBR, CBZ, and good luck trying to find a third-party reader on Apple, but on Google Play, there's plenty of like third-party comic readers that you can easily import in your own stuff. So a little bit different. It's comics are easily read if you're into like buying comics from Comixology and Marvel and stuff like that. But if you want to load in your own comics, it's super easy to be able to do that with the Android ecosystem.
Exactly.
So we've looked at ebooks, we've looked at comics.
Going to look at a game now, which is Sonic 4. Both of these are the exact same game. It's going to be a long shot because of the frame, but we can show you. Gotta love that Sega. So we're gonna go ahead and just turn one of these off. There we go. And we're gonna skip that ad there. So what we have here is Sonic the Hedgehog 4. And
in landscape mode, I mean, you have a huge viewing area here.
It's a huge screen on the iPad mini. So why we chose this game is because there's a lot of things going on the screen.
Plus it's bright, it's bubbly,
and it's
lots
live rendering.
Of colors, yeah.
It's live rendering, so we're definitely going to see everything kind of happen as we go. So if you just want to control with this guy right here.
Sure.
So you can see Michael's using the finger approach, and I'm using the thumb approach, which would be easier if he just grabbed it, but
yeah,
I know. Just to show you that although we have quad core on the Nexus and dual core on the Apple, neither of them are having any problems really running this. The only problem actually would be Michael's lack of skills in this game. But,
I can't even like jump like.
Not doing the Apple justice, but just to show you that the whole time we've been reviewing this, that we haven't closed anything.
Yeah.
Everything's just been open virtually the entire time, and you can see that Tails is bouncing around there to give us some movement. So nothing has changed up to this point. We haven't closed anything, and we're seeing flawless gameplay. So. Both of them are displaying it perfectly. I almost even like the iPad more because it's just a bigger screen. So.
Yeah, I mean, for gaming, you're really gonna notice. Wow, you just did that.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I just like struggled mightily, and you're like, oh, you don't even worry about it. But no, I mean, I love the extra size. I mean, that 1 inch makes a huge difference, and when you play games like this, I mean, you can just fit more on a single screen. You can see Sonic is larger on here than he is here. But then again, we do have the iOS version versus the Android version.
Exactly.
So it all comes down to like ecosystem. You're pretty well going to find the same games on Google Play as you would on iOS, but the one advantage that iOS has with not only games but everything else, like Instagram, it was available almost a year on iOS before it was ever available on Android.
Exactly.
It comes down to, you know, a large the thing is, you know, piracy. You'll have more first-party content on iOS than you will have with Android, because Android is for the most part, it's piracy. It is.
It's always been a big problem. I mean, because the fact that you can just hook this up to your computer, change what you want, drag and drop what you want, take out, put on what you want. Obviously, there's a big issue with piracy there. Whereas, because of the fact that, although some people may think it's a bad thing, that you're locked into Apple, only Apple, that's it. You do drastically reduce piracy. I mean, one of the only things is jailbreaking, but then other than that, I mean, because you have to deal with Apple specifically, you usually just, it's better to develop for Apple because it's more economical for developers to make it for Apple.
Your average person has no idea how to jailbreak.
Exactly.
You know that, but the average person could, instead of going to Google Play and buying something for $2.99, can just go to a website, download an APK, and automatically install it all within the tablet itself, and you know, download that Final Fantasy game instead of spending $20, and you just get it for free.
Exactly.
With Apple, it's a little bit harder to do. That's possible, but you have to jump through through way more hoops, and you have to be a little bit more tech savvy. So the reason why you see more first-party content on here, and generally a little bit higher quality games, is just because it's harder to pirate it, and developers can make more money, so they're more attracted to the platform. Whereas a lot of the times, you might see an Instagram on here for about a year, then it'll come to here.
Yeah.
You know, you seldom see Android exclusive releases. You do, but it's mainly indie games.
Yes, exactly.
You know, like the Jario.
Oh yeah, all those Mario ripoffs. It's great. It gives you quite a laugh.
Okay, so finally, to wrap it up, we're going to play some media content. So we're going to open up a website. We're going to play some video and play some music. All right, so as you can see here, I mean, the trailers look pretty well the same. I mean, it's really kind of hard to say what looks better than the other. We'll just leave it up to the users to decide, what they liked better. We heard a little bit of audio, but we're going to run a little bit more comprehensive audio tests by looking at some music here. So we're going to play a little bit of music that we have here, and then we're going to play a little bit of music on the iPad. So, I mean,
pretty loud.
Yeah, that is. I'm actually surprised with it being face down. The audio speaker actually comes pretty good because it being face down, this is so close to the bottom.
Yeah.
That it actually, you get pretty solid audio.
Volume
quality.
was good, and the crispness was pretty good as well. So we'll turn the iPad all the way up and go to music, and play a song, just like 10 or 15 seconds of a song.
Sure. I guess we'll play this.
What I've noticed about Apple products is that their bass is always really good. Be it on the onboard speakers or the earphones that come with it, they always have very nice bass built in.
Yeah,
so.
and of course there's also, I believe, EQs in the settings menu that, depending on like what type of earphones and like what type of audio quality, you can go for that.
I know a lot of the time there are equalizer settings and all that, but there's the EQ right there. They do have a various amount of settings. I mean, especially on Android, you could just download an EQ app and then tweak things from there. But
or you could download like a Meridian or like a ton of third-party apps that like have built-in EQs.
Exactly.
Already there.
But on a stock experience to stock experience, I'd say it's a little bit louder and crisper on this, but I think the deeper elements of the song on this, like the bass and all that kind of stuff, comes through a lot better on the Apple.
And I mean, it's a little bit hard for that to come across on video too.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just have kind of one microphone shooting at this. It's better with the naked ear, definitely.
We've looked at a lot of content today.
We have.
You know, it's really hard to say what is better than the other because, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's our own personal opinions.
Right.
And you've heard our arguments throughout the video on like piracy in apps and app quality and this and that, but pretty well a lot of the same type of apps you'll find on here, you'll find on Google Play.
Yeah, like we just showed you, Kindle, the Sonic game. I mean, there aren't a lot of apps in general that you can't find on Android because they'll eventually hit Android.
Yeah, and it comes down to it that what ecosystem do you like better? Do you like Google's? Do you like Apple's? Both are pretty internationally friendly. There's certain things with Google that you can't get in Canada. Same with like Google Music. Some magazines you can't get in Canada yet. But when it comes down to it, there's a lot of content to be had. It's presented in totally different and unique ways on both platforms, and their ecosystems are fairly well developed. They've both been around for plenty of years now. They've gone through each and one of their growing pains and stuff like that. Google Play, App Store, both unique experiences. We'll leave it up to the users to decide what they like better. You've heard our thoughts. Let's hear yours. You can comment on this video or at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/goodyreader, and you can read all the latest news, previews, interviews, and everything else on our website at goodyreader.com. And for a comparison of the iPad mini versus the Google Nexus 7, my name is Michael.
My name's Peter.
Everybody take care.